Good day to you all. First of all, this is not an instructional video because I know nothing about four-wheel drive suspension. And that is exactly why I'm making it, because it's time to upgrade the suspension on the GU. As you would have seen on the GU overview video, click the little info thing up there if you want to see that, because in that video you'll see how unhappy I am with the current suspension in my GU. It's rough as guts. I want something comfortable. So I'm calling on you to help me decide what to get. What am I thinking of so far? I am going to go with a 2-inch lift. Reasons for that being there's a lot of police attention tracking down vehicles that are lifted too high. Throughout pretty much all of Australia, the law says 2-inch maximum lift unless you've got it engineered. Go above that, get attention from the police. It's just the way it is. So police attention is one reason, insurance is another reason, because if your insurance company finds out you've got a 4-inch lift and it's not engineered, then your insurance is null and void. You've wasted money on insurance, you've lost your rig. So complying with insurance and the police is my main reasons for that. There's other reasons too. Lift it too high, your fuel economy goes down the toilet, and also you go from a 2-inch to a 3-inch lift, suddenly not only are you doing $1,500 for springs and shocks, you're doing $3,000 because you need adjustable panhards front and rear. You're extending the brake lines, extended sway bar linkages. You've got to do caster correction bushes or drop boxes. So the higher you go, it gets expensive real quick. And maybe you've watched this channel for long enough and you know the sort of driving we do. It doesn't warrant more than a 2-inch lift most of the time. If we do find ourselves in those sorts of positions, maybe I'll look at putting a locker in the front down the track, and then I can drive with insane wheel lifts up in the sky rather than mad flex. But from what I've experienced out on the tracks, I can do so much with the little 1-inch lift that's in it now. So what's going through my head for shock absorbers? Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's 3 major types on the market. You've got the twin tube shock absorber, which is the most common type. Monotube shock absorbers, which I've heard are very good and I'm liking that option at the moment. And then you've got remote res shock absorbers, which seem to be all the rage since everyone seems to be pouring their marketing dollars into that. We've got Old Man Emu BP51s, Dobinson's MRR. We've got Armada, they do a remote res shock, and those King shock absorbers as well. So everyone seems to be going remote res, but I'm not entirely convinced that it is necessary on my vehicle. What am I leaning towards the most? I'm looking towards the Coneys or the Bilsteins, which are both a monotube shock absorber. Now, from what I've read around the internet, the Bilsteins or the Coneys in the monotubes are the way to go, but they're not cheap. I'm looking at the Bilstein B6 or the Coney 82s or 88s. Probably leaning more towards the Coney 88s at this stage, although they're pretty pricey. The advantage with them is they are an adjustable shock, not in the sense that you go underneath and turn a dial. You have to take one end of the shock absorber off and rotate the body of it to stiffen up the rebound dampening. The Bilsteins can be adjusted as well, but that has to be done in a workshop by having shims replaced, so it's not really a user serviceable part. So the Coney 82s seem to be marketed more towards road use with a little bit of four-wheel driving thrown in, whereas the 88s are towards more off-road use. And from everything I've seen and read around forums, who uses those these days? Sorry, forums. They're the most comfortable option, the Coney 88s. The Bilsteins maybe seems to be not too far behind. I can get the Bilsteins a lot cheaper than the Coney 88s, so that sort of balances the equation a bit. Spend more money, get awesome product. Spend less money, get awesome product that's not as awesome, but still good. Anyway, enough babble there. Another great thing about the monotubes is if you're using a twin tube shock, they reach the end of their life, you toss them. Monotubes, you spend a quarter to a third of the price of the shock to get it rebuilt. So works out cost effective if you're keeping your vehicle for a long time. But what about these remote res things? Do I need them? I mean, The idea of having fully adjustable rebound and compression dampening sounds awesome, but do I need it? Really? I think that if you can get your shock absorbers and your springs all tuned to match each other, you shouldn't have to touch that again. So that leaves the remote res with one major advantage, which is the oil capacity. Huge oil capacity. More oil means better cooling and longer life, better dampening, etc., etc. The only one I'd be considering because of price is the Dobinson MRR series. I can actually get that cheaper than I can get the Coney 88 shock absorber. But I've read a lot of mixed reviews about these MRR shock absorbers. I know Ronnie Dahl has them under his Land Cruiser. He swears by the things. I've read a lot of mixed reviews, a few people saying at about 20 to 30,000 Ks they sort of discovered they'd copped themselves a dud shock absorber and it had leaked oil everywhere. So, I mean, sure, they're replaced under warranty, but it's not a hassle you really want to deal with. So there you go. Bilstein B6, Coney 82 or 88, or the Dobinson remote reservoir. Give me your opinions on them down in the comments. Now, springs. What the Patrol has in it now are King springs, 1-inch lift, progressive coil in the rear rated to 150 kilos. I reckon it's probably sagged now, back to about standard height. In the back I've got 80 kilo drawers, 20 or 30 kilos worth of camping gear constantly in those drawers, and then a fridge which is probably 15 kilos. So I'm coming up pretty close on that 150 kilos, and it's not comfortable. So I'm leaning towards going away from that progressive coil and back into a linear. Now, with those linear coils, I'm thinking about putting some airbag helpers in them as well, because everyone's vehicle goes to be a little bit lighter on the road, a little bit heavier for camping, and a set of airbag helpers will help you sort of tune the springs a little bit harder so as they don't sag when you go camping. I understand that there's some problems out there with airbag helpers and cracked chassis, but I spoke to a few people in the know, and the problem seems to be old mate's bought a set of 100 kilo extra rated coils, but likes to load up the truck to 300 kilos when he goes away, and so jacks up these airbags stupidly hard, thinking, yeah, that's what airbags are for. And yeah, it stops your vehicle from sagging. Yeah, awesome, it's doing a great job, he says. The problem is that doing up those airbags so hard, it's like putting 2 bricks between your axle and your chassis. And so all those bumps, corrugations just transmit straight through to the chassis and crack it. And you end up with a car like a banana. So if I can promise myself to be a responsible airbag user, I reckon I'll get away with it. So as far as brands and heights and weight ratings go, one of the things I'm considering is the King Springs Comfort Coil. It's a 45mm lifted coil. The main problem is it's rated to 100 kilos of extra load, so not quite enough. Unless I go to the next level up, which is 300 to 500 kilos, which is going to feel like I'm sitting on a pallet of bricks on a forklift. So maybe the King Comfort coils aren't the best option. Other than that, Dobinsons do a good range of linear coils, and I hear good things about the Dobinson springs. I believe that's where they started out in making springs, and they've been doing it for years, so I've heard they're quite comfortable, quite flexy. Sounds like a pretty good option. There's a third option on the table as well, which is raw 4x4 springs. I don't know anything about that brand, so make sure you chime in with your opinion on raw 4x4 springs, if you've got one, down there in the comments. I did even consider at one point full coil replacement airbags. That seems like a pretty neat idea. Put the airbags in, you get them as a kit, install a compressor and all the stuff to control it, and then you can just raise and lower your car as you see fit. Plus there's the fact that you're riding on air, so it's got to be pretty comfortable, hey? Then I read about how much trouble people can have tuning them, all sorts of different shock absorber configurations, and then I realised how expensive it would be by the time I finished it all. So I can get the airbags for $1,000 per end, so $2,000 for the airbags. Then you've got to get the compressor and all the controller set up, and then shock absorbers on top of that. And then you've got to try and fine tune it all so as it rides decent. So sounds like too much hassle to me, although if you got it right in the end, it could be pretty comfortable. Finally, why have I narrowed it to these brands? Well, I can get very good prices on them and I'm skint. Simple as that. I would really like to seek the help of a professional, but I wouldn't be buying off them anyway. I'd be going straight back here and buying what I can get the good pricing on. So, it's not really good conduct to go and milk a professional for information and then go off and buy off somewhere else. I don't do that, which is why I'm asking you guys. So, we'll finish this off with a quick recap. What should I do for shock absorbers, guys? Should I go for the Bilstein B6, Coney 82s, 88s, or the Dobinson Remote Res? And as far as springs go, I'm a lot less decided on them, so tell me what you think about Dobinson's, Raw and King springs and what I should go for there. Your help is greatly appreciated, and I'll speak with you shortly in the comments.